I built my son's first bicycle with these two hands. It was a second-hand red Schwinn, rusted chain, cracked seat, one bent wheel. I worked on it every night for 2 weeks in the garage after my shift at the plant, sanding it down, painting it candy apple red, replacing every broken part. When Daniel ran out on Christmas morning and saw it gleaming under the porch light, he cried. He was 7 years old, and he cried like I'd handed him the whole world. I thought about that bicycle on the day he forgot to invite me to his wedding. My name is Walt. I'm 68 years old. I have 2 bad knees, 1 good ear, a dog named Biscuit, and until about a year ago, I had a son who called me every Sunday without fail. I want to tell you what happened, not because I want sympathy, I've had enough of that, but because I think a lot of you out there know exactly how this feels, and I think the end of this story is going to surprise you. So pull up a chair, this one takes a minute. Daniel is my only child. His mother passed when he was 19, cancer, fast and merciless, and after that it was just the 2 of us. We learned how to be a family of 2. We had Sunday dinners and fishing trips and long drives where neither of us said much, but it didn't matter. We were good at being together. When he met Savannah 4 years ago, I liked her immediately. She was sharp and funny and looked at my son like he hung the moon. I remember thinking, this is the one. I remember calling my late wife's sister and saying, Elena, I think Danny found his person. The early years were good. Holidays at my place, summer cookouts, Savannah learning to fish badly and laughing about it. She called me Walt from day one, not Daniel's dad or some awkward placeholder, just Walt, easy and natural, like I'd always been part of her life. Then something shifted. I still can't tell you exactly when or why. Maybe it was when they moved 40 minutes away and the distance made drop-ins less natural. Maybe it was when her family started filling more of their calendar. Maybe it was just the slow, quiet drift that happens when 2 young people build a life and an old man doesn't quite fit the blueprint. The calls got shorter. The Sunday check-ins became occasional. Last Thanksgiving, they went to Savannah's parents in Colorado. I ate turkey with my neighbor Frank and his wife, which was fine. Frank makes a good bird, but it was the first Thanksgiving in 40 years I'd spent without my son. I told myself it was normal. I told myself I was being an old man about it. I told myself to give them space. Then in February, Daniel called to tell me they were getting married. Hawaii private ceremony, immediate family only. That sounds beautiful, son, I said, and I meant it. I waited for the details. A week passed, then 2. I figured they were still sorting logistics. I'm not a man who likes to push. My father raised me to wait to be invited rather than invite yourself, and that lesson went deep. It was my neighbor Frank who tipped me off. His daughter follows Savannah on social media, and one Saturday morning Frank showed up at my door with his coffee mug and an uncomfortable look on his face. Walt, he said, I don't know how to ask this without it being awkward, but did you get your invite to Daniel's wedding? I told him I was still waiting on the details. Frank nodded slowly and stared at his coffee. Right, okay. That afternoon, I called Daniel. He answered on the 3rd ring. We talked about the weather. We talked about my knee. We talked about the dog. And when I finally asked him directly, son, when do you need me in Hawaii? The silence on the other end of the line told me everything before his words did. He fumbled. He used phrases like, we wanted it to be intimate, and Savannah felt strongly, and it was just going to be her immediate family. He said they'd do a dinner when they got back. He said I'd be the first person he called after the ceremony. I'm 68 years old. I have sat with enough hard moments in my life to know when one is happening. All right, Daniel, I said, I understand. I didn't hang up angry. I didn't raise my voice. I said goodbye like a man and put the phone down on the kitchen table and sat there for a long time with Biscuit's head in my lap. I want to be honest with you about those next few days. I'm not going to dress it up. I was hurt in a way I didn't have language for, not the sharp hurt of a fight, but the slow spreading kind, the kind that settles into your chest and changes the shape of things. I kept thinking about that bicycle. about the years of school pickups and homework, and teaching him to drive and sitting with him in the hospital the night his mother died, holding his hand, telling him we were going to be okay. I thought about all of it, and then I thought, does any of that matter if I raised a man who can get married without his father? The wedding was on a Saturday. I spent the morning in the garden. I'm not a man who does nothing well. I need my hands busy, so I planted tomatoes, which was maybe 3 months too early for my climate, but it didn't matter. I needed the dirt. My sister Roberta called in the afternoon. She's 72 and pulls no punches. You doing okay, Walt? She asked. Right as rain, I said. You're a terrible liar, she said. Always have been. That evening I sat on the back porch with a bourbon and watched the light go out of the sky and talked to my wife out loud, the way I do sometimes when something's too big for just my own head. I said, Ruth, I don't know what I did wrong. And the trees moved a little in the evening wind, which I took as her answer, which was, maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Sunday morning I was up at 6, same as always. Coffee, eggs, the news. And then my phone rang. It was Daniel. On a Sunday morning like the old days, but his voice wasn't right. Dad, he never calls me Dad anymore. It's been Pop or just nothing for years. Dad, there's a problem with the flight home. I sat up straight. The airline had grounded the entire departure out of Maui. Mechanical issue, serious enough that they weren't putting anyone on a plane until it was resolved. Could be 1 day, could be 3. Hotels were full. The airport was chaos. All 40 of their wedding guests were stranded in paradise with no way home. Are you safe? I asked. Yeah, we're fine, just stuck. Savannah's upset, we don't know how long. Daniel, I kept my voice level, tell me what you need. I spent the next 4 hours on the phone with airlines and hotels. I called in an old favor from a buddy who works travel industry to get Daniel and Savannah a room for 2 nights. I tracked connecting flights through the mainland. I did what fathers do. I fixed what I could fix from 1,000 miles away. And somewhere in hour 3, Daniel got quiet on the line and said, Why are you doing this, Dad, after everything? I said, Because you're my son. That's the only reason I've ever needed. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I don't have an excuse. I keep trying to think of one and there isn't one. I let you down. I told him we'd talk when he got home. He came to see me the following Thursday, alone, no Savannah. We sat at the same kitchen table where he'd done 5th grade math problems and eaten 10,000 dinners, and cried the night we buried his mother. He talked for a long time. He told me about the pressure he'd felt, about wanting to keep the peace, about not knowing how to honor 2 families at once. He told me that standing at that altar, the one thing that felt wrong was that I wasn't there. I told him I wasn't going to pretend it didn't hurt. I wasn't going to be easy about it just to make the conversation comfortable. He needed to hear the truth, and I needed to say it. But I also told him this: I have never once in my life stopped being his father. Not when he was difficult, not when he was distant, not even when he got married without me. That's not something that switches off. I built that boy's first bicycle with my own hands, and I would do every single bit of it again. He hugged me before he left. A real one, long and tight, the kind we hadn't shared since his mother's funeral. Savannah called me the following week. She was stiff and nervous on the phone, feeling her way through the words. She said she'd been wrong, that she'd let her own fears make a decision that wasn't fair to him or to me. She said she hoped we could start over. I told her I'd always been on her side, that I still was. Here's what I know after 68 years on this earth. Love is not a reward for good behavior. You don't get to only love the people who never let you down. The ones who matter most will sometimes fail you in ways that knock the breath right out of you, and you love them anyway, and you show up anyway, and sometimes that showing up is the very thing that brings them back. That red bicycle took me 2 weeks to rebuild. Some relationships take longer, but you keep working, you keep showing up, you don't put down the tools. Daniel calls every Sunday again. This past weekend he asked if I wanted to come for dinner Thursday. I said yes, before he finished the sentence. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment below. I read every single one. Give it a like if you think someone else needs to hear it, and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of the people you love before life finds a way to remind you that you should have.